This is the perfect opportunity for Star Wars fans to answer that eternal question, is the Force with you? Hi, I'm Rebecca Brayton and welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be taking a tour of the Star Wars Identities exhibit at the Montreal Science Centre.
This is an exhibition, obviously, that's about Star Wars, but it's also about the characters of Star Wars. So that's really the main focus of this exhibition. And so we go in depth into the making of the characters, but also the characters' identity and actually how they became who they are.
So tell us a bit about the identity quest and what someone will see when they go through the exhibit.
Earlier on, when we were developing this idea of Star Wars and identity, we realized that visitors were hopefully going to be asking themselves questions about their own identity and how to make that interesting. Well, we found a way, what we call the identity quest. So every visitor actually has this little bracelet, and it allows us to track all of their answers. So as they go through the exhibition, we ask visitors a very simple question, and we ask them, if you had grown up in the world of Star Wars, who would you be? We're right here in the introduction of Star Wars Identities, and this is the first station of the interactive quest. And we asked you, what species are you? So every visitor gets to choose what species their inner Star Wars character has. So you can be a human, but there's some things that I find are pretty more exciting than being a human. So I'm going to choose a Kaminoan over here. So we're not asking you, are you a Princess Leia, or are you R2-D2? We're like, no, if you were a character, what species would you be? How would your parents have raised you? What planet would you be from? And so you make these choices throughout the exhibition, and at the end we reveal who your inner Star Wars character is. So we're at a second station here in the exhibition, and we get to decide who our mentor is. As we know, the people that inspire us in life can change the course of our lives, and so we have a whole bunch of choices here. So people that we know well in the movies. Do we want to have Yoda? Do we want to have Qui-Gon as the main person who's going to inspire us? I kind of like what Chewbacca stands for. He says, loyalty is absolute. It's a question of principle and honor. So I think that's pretty inspiring. So I'll choose this one right here.
What inspired you to use Star Wars to discuss the idea of identity?
I'd say it's the other way around. We started working with the subject of Star Wars. When we create an exhibition that's going to be going on tour in museums, we have to obviously bring a new angle to the movies and not just show what everybody already knows about the movies. So it's really a way to present the movies in a different angle. So we started looking into the work of Joseph Campbell, who is somebody who inspired George Lucas enormously. And Joseph Campbell studied a lot of universal myths in different cultures, and one of the myths that he came up with was the hero myth. And these myths are all about young heroes that are embarking on a journey of self-discovery. So it really quickly became an angle we could explore. And then we got some scientists involved to help us flesh out from a scientific perspective how we can talk about identity in real life and also in the world of fiction. Towards the end of the exhibition, we get to choose what our occupation is. So obviously what we do in life has a huge impact on who we are. In the Star Wars universe, we have tons of choices, and here we have a couple choices. For example, do we want to be a senator, fighter pilot, bounty hunter? You can actually even be a farmer if you want to, on Tatooine. So how about today being a senator?
Why is Star Wars such an enduring story and so appropriate for an exhibition like this?
It's one of those timeless tales of this, usually it's this young individual who something happens in his life, a marking event happens in his life, and then he goes off on this search to better know who he is, find his origins and become an adult and grow up and become who he wants to be. And I think that's a universal subject that just touches everybody. And what's particularly interesting in this exhibition is we often try to make exhibitions where we're going to be able to interest adults as much as the children, and it's not always possible for all different subjects. But in this case, you've got parents that are just getting all excited about the classics material and the classic characters, and then you get the younger children who got on board with the prequels and they got all excited for whether it's Jar Jar Binks, who most people don't like, but the little children really don't see the problem with him. And then you get even the smaller children who discovered Star Wars through the Clone Wars, for example. So you really have these discussions where when you're in the exhibition, you see parents, learning about new characters in the more recent versions and vice versa. So it makes it for an interesting experience.
tell us about some of the impressive art pieces and props from the films that people will see in the exhibit.
There's some costumes. For example, we have the original Boba Fett costume, which is a huge fan favorite. We have Princess Leia's original bikini, so that's a classic as well. All of the classic characters, whether it's C-3PO and R2-D2, are in the exhibition, so that's pretty cool to get to see them. One of the more interesting aspects I find is something that's a bit less well known is the artwork that's featured in the exhibition. A lot of behind the scenes studies that were done for certain characters and how a character was before it became the character. For example, we see that Yoda, before being that green little creature that we know, he was actually more of a dwarf. So we see how the artist conceptualized him in the initial brainstorming phases before the whole Lucasfilm team and George Lucas decided, no, he's going to be more of this green little creature and he's not going to be human anymore. So it's really interesting insight into the creative process that goes into making a movie.
Great, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Hope you enjoy the show.